How you doing, everybody? Been a little bit. Busier than a freaking one-arm paper hanger. I'm gonna tell you, I got my local saw stuff caught up. Thank God, because the last time we talked, I had a bunch of it piled up. It's gone. It's all gone. Done. And I'm not taking any more. I just can't do it, guys. If you're local, if I've got a couple that I got to finish up. But it's one I'm waiting on parts, the other one I'm waiting on time. I got a little 66 mag for a good friend that I got to finish, but it's 90% done. Just got to get there. Got quite sick there a couple weeks ago. Oh my God, 10 days. 5 days, right? Absolute flat in bed. But I'm better now. And we're going forward. Garden's doing awesome. Greenhouse doing awesome. Area beautification. Last year, obviously, I didn't get much done, so I didn't get anything done. How's that? So it's recovery time. My 1-ton truck has been down for months. 97 Chevy, the Vortec 454. It's a good old truck. You know, it ain't nothing special, but it's a solid old truck. Finally, we got that going this weekend. We finished it. Taillights are working, no fuel leaks, no oil. Well, I don't know if I got an oil leak or not. I haven't run it in freaking almost 2 years. So, anyways, now I can get wood with that truck again. I can haul things off. I'm trying to clean my big bay out because we've got Colin's drag truck project we want to be in there with. But we store hay. It's just a hay barn, basically. But, I mean, we had concrete in there. And then we decided once we had the horses to store hay in there. Well, you either got a hay barn or you got a shop. Well, what it did in the transition period was ended up being a catch-all. This is what it ended up being. So we got to go in there and finish the walls and get some proper lighting in there, and so we can build a stove. We got to build a stove, and so we can spend some time out there working with this project there. But in the meantime, part of the area beautification is we had a terrible thing happen. Nothing big, just a little big. We've bought over the years 4 or 5 of these freaking cheap freaking string trimmers, and they're either pretty crappy to fairly shitty. That's the category. And a couple of years ago, Colin got sick of that. Won't start. And he ended up in Walmart somehow and bought a Johnson. He says, he called me, Dad, Johnson ain't good? Yeah, they're made by Husqvarna. They own them. Well, I'm going to get one. It's X amount of money. I forget what. But surprisingly, this little bugger is a straight shaft. You won't be able to see all of it. Well, maybe you can. But here's what we got. Little Johnson. It is made by Husqvarna. But it's been pretty good. 28 cc's. For the medium to light duty stuff, it worked pretty good. But you get into 2-year-old grass in stalks, it just ain't got enough power. It don't. It don't. Well, I believe in sometimes one thing leads to another. Here's what happened. And this was when I was dead sick. Colin took this string trimmer, and he went out there, and he's going around, and he's burning the world up, and he's doing a really good job with it. I can run these things for about 10 minutes, and I got to set them down to hurt my damn back. But we had something terrible happen. It got straight gassed. I don't know what happened exactly, but the gas we run in the lawnmower and the weed eaters, he ended up putting not 1, not 2, 3 tanks of just straight gas through this. Here's what's funny. He said it kept quitting, Dad. I mean, I got done. He says, just got where it runs pretty bad. I don't know what we got to do. Well, it still turns over, and it's got compression, but no cigar. And it don't sound right turning over to me. It don't sound right. So what do? I say, well, minimum 3 tanks of gas. We run Amsoil Sabre in our two-stroke stuff anymore because we run the same gas in the bikes as we do chainsaws. And I've never took one of these apart ever in my life. So I got to deal with that. Every time one of these quit, throw it in the corner, go get a new one. That's what I do. So the bare minimum is at least a piston, not a piston and cylinder. So as things go, okay, I don't know much about this. What am I going to do? So I start looking up the parts, and goodness sakes, they wanted freaking $75 for a piston for this. And I couldn't find anything aftermarket, just because what it is, I guess. So I said, well, that's pretty expensive. I said, I'd better tear it apart and find out what the deal is. And I ended up on eBay. Thought I'd give that a shot. And lo and behold, I found a complete engine. Now, I expected, being a box store weed eater, I don't care if it is a John Thread made by Husqvarna, I expected a clamshell. Well, this motor was $40. And it said it was taken off one that had a bad shaft. Well, I can tell you right now, the only time this ever ran was from the factory on the initial startup. Number one, it's way too clean, but there's no evidence that this ever did anything. But surprisingly, it's got left and half cases just like a chainsaw, proper cylinder, and it's got these nice little caps on the transfer, so I think maybe we can work this out. Now, out of a 28cc, I think what we better do is start, before we get too carried away. I'm not going to turn this into a long-term project. This got to be fast and dirty, because I got saws that I've been working on, which we've got a few that's really kind of in a nice place. I can't wait to show you some of the footage. But I think what I want to do is pull a cylinder off. So let's do that. My bench is a terrible mess, guys. Just a terrible, terrible mess. I come out here, work, leave, make a mess, trash it out, and then when it gets bad enough, I start hoeing. But I'm a little curious about this. Now this, the one thing about it, these things don't impress me they're not supposed to be a chainsaw. But I don't like the way they run. They're boggy. There's some trouble there. Let's see if we can fix some of these issues. I want to turn this into like a half-a-day project at best. That's what I want to do. It's going to take me that long to figure out how to get the plastic off the darn thing. But because of being straight gassed and ran 3 tanks of straight gas, I don't know whether to trust that bottom end or not. I guess when we get in there, we'll see. But I got this motor sitting in front of me, and I should be able to easily figure out what, you just shake it, it'll all come out. I guess I can figure out how it mounts. I've worked on the older ones, the older steel, Husqvarna, the Pro Grade. And when I talk older, I mean older. But this ought to be rather interesting for me, quite honestly. Oh, what's this going to do? Take a different plug yet? Yeah, there we go. Really rather not wreck that intake gasket. let me find, or yeah, the base gasket rather. I'm a little preoccupied right now, and I need to find a razor knife. Oh, guys, this thing is, this is ridiculous. Just a tiny, tiny little, I mean, that's little piston, little cylinder. Surprisingly, for the size of that, them lower transfers are fairly big for the size that they actually are. For the saw, has a proper combustion chamber. The squish band's not too wide. It's got the earmarks or something, but I can tell you one thing I didn't like. I knew it didn't brand new. It's got a disc piston. That's fairly significant disc, isn't it? But I think we're going to make something out of this. I see that there was a single ring jobber, but boy, I don't know. Where do you start with something? What do you want? What do we want? Let's get that straight. What do I want to do? What am I trying to actually accomplish? I'm not trying to make a hot rod. I just want it to run better than they do. Well, that little dish, now I've preached till I blue in the face that compression is not necessarily king in a two-stroke, and that's not the deal. But I'll tell you what, you got to have enough, and that is not going to give me enough. So I think what we need to do, we need to TIG weld that up, make that a flat top. Let's do that. I'm not going to do it. I got a guy. I know a guy. But now we got these caps on this. I want to know what the bore is. And I'm going to have to, when I get done making today's video, I'm going to calculate. I'd like to CC this thing and see exactly what... okay, 0. Let's just see what the bore is. Wow, that's a big old joker. I'm going to assume that's supposed to be 36 millimeter bore. It is 36. That's 36 millimeter bore. Okay. All right, so 36. That's not very big. I'm getting scared. But if we TIG weld that little bugger up, we're not going to cause ourselves any grief. Everything I've got set up is for significantly bigger. But you can see it's got the Husqvarna symbol on it here. And actually, if you look really close right beside my thumb, even on the piston, it's got a Husqvarna. What do you do with this? What do you do with it? I'm not really happy with how the transfers are scooped. I mean, I think I could fix that just a little bit and make that a little nicer. But you know, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't do small stuff. I don't like doing it. I do occasionally tear into one. I always have them part 4 or 5 times before I get them the way I like them. Because I believe in one thing. Sneak up a little bit by little bit, and just to generate them numbers. It's not the same numbers as a 70 to 90 cc class saw. It's not. That they're definitely different. I wonder. I'm gonna go to inches and re-zero. I want to see. $62 thousandths dishing that. So if I increase that 62, I bet I can. I think it'd be about right, don't you? I really do. I guess what I want to do now put this back in the case. I guess what I want to do now is I want to take a cap off this one of these transfers and see what we're dealing with there. We might, like I said, guys, sometimes it ain't exactly the numbers game you think it is, building two strokes. That's another problem is mounting a degree wheel, this tiny little thing. I'm going to have to get just a little bit creative. I can tell you that right now. And we do creative here. That's what we do. But Colin, actually, if you want to know the truth, he's been after me for about 5 years. He wants me a hot rod one of these little buggers. I don't really want a hot rod one. I just want to make it better. So let's see what's under these caps. I think this is going to be interesting, quite honestly. They got a little gasket there. I'd just soon not mess with that. Well, now. Believe it or not, it doesn't look too shabby. But I'll tell you what it does do. See this, coming from that lower transfer, this has got a nice scoop. And see this little point right here? It's angled the proper direction so that it'll direct air to the intake side. There's definitely room for improvement here. I can tell you that right now. There definitely is. And we're going to do some improving. But I tell you what, we're going to sneak up on it. I guess what we got to do is get an upper transfer opened up. Get this to match. Eyeball. First thing I got to do is somehow I got to get a degree wheel on this. There ain't no bones about it. So that'll get interesting. You know what? I've still got another one or two of these crazy big bore projects. Well, guess what? We're going to get through them. And I am going to end up being onto again, I got the wrong tool. That ain't going to work. I'm going to end up going back to a common chainsaw build for a good friend of mine out in Arizona, 372. And I timed it, got the numbers, know what I'm going to do. But it's going to kind of be a little bit of a relief to just work on something that's pretty common. Okay, so there's that. Now, I'm going to take a minute, and I'm going to look this thing over and see what it takes to get it apart. Okay, I actually ordered some low melting point electronic solders, 38,000s, just to do this saw. Because I generally run to 62, 63 thousandths to check the squish. Okay, this was no base gasket. I guess we needed to know that to see where we're actually at. Most saws will come in around 20, 22 thousandths without base gasket. Be kind of interesting to see what this comes out. Okay, here's what we got. 19 and a half. Oh, it's 18. It's actually 18. I had to check it. I ought to check it 2-3 spots. That's fine. As small as this bore is, that's going to be just perfect. Because you got to remember, we're going to add 2.5 thousandths, 3 thousandths when we use our engine assembly silicone. It's going to, so we're going to be over 20. Not a problem. I'm liking that. So we're gonna be able to get our squish where I want it. Better hang this up. Okay, so work plan. I have a bunch of these made for my degree wheel. I'm gonna see what my smallest one is. And I tell you what, I've done this before. I've actually used fishing line or something in there for shim to at least get the darn wheel on the shaft, and so that I can degree this. Okay, I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that piston, I'm going to chemically clean that, and I'm going to take that uptown to my little welder guy that is awful good, and I'm going to have him make a flat top. And we're just going to see. And if a flat top's too much, I can cut a little at a time and get that right where I want it. As much as anything, we'll do a compression test. And I can't do one first, and I'm not going to even try on this without the motor mounted to something. But I know where I want to be about. But I want to be able to pull it over easy without breaking the recoil or anything. And I don't really care if I change the upper working RPMs all that much. Maybe a little is fine. I've got to gain a bag full of torque. That's what I got to gain. I got to get that torque. So let me pick this stuff up and put it away. Just need a little Ziploc bag for that. And I've got a doctor's appointment this afternoon. So I'm not going to be able to get this very far with us today, but tomorrow I am. I'd like to get this thing running and back together. I'll probably never want to work on another one of these again, but it's like anything else. First chainsaw I ever tore apart, it's like, oh my God, how did they ever build these? Now it's you can do them in your sleep. Well, 10 minutes later, I mean, that's all there was to it. It just, the clamshell part of this was just all the covers. They actually make sense the way they come apart. They really do. They just kind of wrap around the motor. Obviously, most of you guys know that there's a clutch, which is right here. Centrifugal clutch with one spring on this little bugger that goes into the clutch hub here, just kind of like the chainsaws, no different right there. So let's just see. Did the AMSOIL do its job after 3 tanks of straight gas? Did it? It still ran. What's that worth? Not good. And kept quitting. Got hot, didn't it? So, and it's got a great big old can of a muffler. I can tell you I don't like that so good. But it's a weed eater. Well, it's not a weed eater. It's a string trimmer. I got it. But it's a proper engine. It's got case halves. We need to pull a cylinder, don't we? But there's something we can do with this muffler. What do you think? Like I said, I don't want to turn this into a days-long project. I want fast and dirty. Get what's easy to get. I want it strong and reliable. Oh my, what a horrible muffler. Oh my. That, you know, the exhaust port ain't very darn big, guys, but if you look in there, you see them tabs left and right there? Don't, them, I mean, they obstructed part of that muffler. Why'd they do that? Yeah, I know, emissions. And then they got this foolish screen here with these tiny little openings. I bet we can fix that. I didn't realize I was going to have so much. Yeah, I knew I was going to have that much fixing. I really did. I fully expected it. Okay, let's try to find my little butter dealing copper here. Not the right one. This is the right one. Jeez, that wasn't even tight. Well, didn't need that anyway, did we? Okay, let's find out. Let's just find out what we got. The one thing I noticed is that intake gasket where it bolts onto the cylinder. That's toast. Either try to buy or find or build. I can make that gasket. I don't have trouble with that. But I'm kind of curious. 3 tanks of freaking straight gas. You know, 1. They won't generally survive even 1. How do you get 3? That's because it ain't producing enough power to hurt itself. Isn't that right? But I've avoided working on these things because I didn't know. I could work, you know something? If you ever want to make a living, work on string trimmers. Man, oh man. The trouble is you can buy the darn things, like in this particular case. They're really quite reasonable. And what do you charge for a $300 string trimmer? What, really, seriously, you know, what do you charge for labor? You know, even if you just weren't trying to really make any money, what do you do? That's your problem in all this. It seems to be another problem. That's a pretty tough old gasket. Yeah, I know. If I took that gas tank off, I wouldn't be fighting with it. Generally, there's some place you can always get something in and just kind of pull a little bit, but there, I found the place. Ooh. Well, guys, I am going to call that shot. You know what's funny? The ring did not seize on the piston, but it is toast. It's not. It was burning nice, wasn't it? But we got a really bad piston there. Let's see what that bottom end. You know what, guys? Them bearings don't feel bad. But it's too easy to put these parts over on the other motor. That's what it is. Now, I'll tell you another thing is, which I normally would not do, but I could tell by the way this ran, it kind of felt like it really wants a time in advance. We might go 2 degrees. Let's just give it a little 2-degree bump and see if we can't pull a little bit of torque up in that upper mid-range RPM, right where it settles down into. The carburetor is kind of a funky little lad, but it's appropriate. It's gonna work. It's gonna work fine. Plunger feels good. My little bulb. But I'm gonna tell you what, guys. I am really impressed that it went through all that, and that ring still moves on that piston. Isn't that something? The ring is definitely compromised. There's not even a question that it's compromised. So I'm going to say this. Yeah, that cylinder is too. I could make it run if there's only one in the world. There is a little bit of transfer on it. I could clean it up and make it work. I'm not going to, because for $40, we got a whole nother motor. So, okay, right now, I can tell you I've got about 40 minutes in this entire project. I just keep track of what that is. I got to take piston up to the weld shop tomorrow morning. We'll get that welded off. Maybe if you want, I'll show you how I face them off in the lathe, because I don't generally show that stuff. And we're going to let stuff sit right where it is, and we're going to see if we can't get this together by Friday. I've got another project that's got to be done. I got to haul some stuff off my truck, and we'll be back with you on this, and then back to the chainsaws. Goodbye.